if you're expecting that, it's not on the agenda for tonight.
If that's something we would like to do, I can add it for future meetings.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm Susan Thorpe. I'm the County Administrator, and I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Yuma County Redistricting Advisory Commission. This is our first public meeting, and it is Thursday, July 29th at 4 p.m. At this point, I would like for each of you, starting at this end, to identify your name, if you want to talk about what you do, but why you really were interested in joining this commission. So I'll start with Alicia.
Good afternoon. I'm Alicia Cermeño, and I'm interested in this commission because I am a lifetime human, or I'm transplanted here, but I'm a lifetime human, and I've seen the changes, and I want to be involved in my community and have a say-so in what happens.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Danette Nichols. I'm a mother of four, a wife, a realtor. Lived in Yuma since 1972. So I was raised here, left, and came back. I love Yuma. I love the community. So I want to get involved. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to be here.
I'm Fernie Quiroz. Many of you know me, but not the community. Giving back is something that I strive for. I sit on numerous boards, from education to housing to immigration to you name it. And this commission is very impactful for the future of this county. So very interested to take part into it.
My name is Gilbert Hernandez, born and raised 1950 here in Yuma. Reason I'm here is my concerns of Yuma County. If I'm going to complain about something, I should be here to help fix it. That's why I'm here.
Hi, my name is Judith Gill. I'm a retired business manager with University of Arizona Research Farms. I also volunteer on the Yuma County Merit Board, and I'm also a volunteer with the Yuma Regional Medical Center. Been here all my life, and I am very interested in the redistricting board because, like I said, Yuma's growing. I'm concerned what goes on in our future, and that's what I'm here for.
Good afternoon. My name is Lorena Sendejas, and I am the campus administrator for the College of Health Careers with Regional Center for Border Health. I was born in Yuma, raised in Somerton all my life, so I'm also an elected official. I belong to the Somerton School District Governing Board, and I'm very involved with my community, so I want to give a little bit more of my 2 cents into my community and what happens around it.
Hi, Marta Garcia, born in Yuma, raised in Somerton, and like my peers here, want to be more involved in my community and give my feedback.
I'm Nancy Meister. I'm a retired dietitian. I worked teaching out at AWC for 22 years before I retired. I do a lot of volunteer work, University of Arizona, Master Gardener. And I've been watching the IRC on Tuesday mornings, and the reason I'm here is I really wanted to meet Doug in person. I'm just kidding. He's
Nice.
become a celebrity. Thank you.
My name is Nancy Tucker. I've been in Yuma a little over 20 years, came here to visit friends and fell in love with the place, ended up staying. I'm here also as a concerned citizen wanting to offer my time and input. I had the opportunity to serve with this group 10 years ago, and I want to see us continue some of the work that was begun at that time.
I'm Pam Walsma, and I am a local attorney, and I have lived here and been a resident since 1982. I love Yuma. I was asked if I would be interested in participating in this commission, and I was pleased to be offered the opportunity to do that. I understand that redistricting is a very important issue for our future.
Hi, my name is Russell McLeod, lifelong human. Our family has a business here, and my father started in 1969. I love our community. Our community's been good to our family. I want to give back, and I know firsthand the importance of the work that this commission will be doing. And so I'm very grateful to Supervisor Lyons for affording me the opportunity to participate.
Thank you all. And you all have kind of learned a little bit about each other. I'm sure you'll learn a lot more about each other as the months go on. So thank you again for volunteering for this. I know it's going to be a lot of work, but I think it's going to be very rewarding for you as well. So with that, I know you've signed your official oath of office, but if you would all rise, I'd like to do a ceremonial oath of office for you. Please raise your right hand. I, and state your name,
I,
I,
Russell McLeod,
Alicia Cermeño,
do solemnly swear
Do
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona.
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
I
I
will
will
bear
bear
true faith and allegiance
and
to the
allegiance to the
same,
same,
and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
of the office of the 2021 Yuma County Redistricting Advisory Commission,
the office of the 2021 Yuma County,
County Redistricting Commission,
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best
best
of my ability, so help me God.
God.
Thank you and congratulations. Please be seated.
I don't think I got it.
Now I'm going to turn it over to our Deputy County Attorney, Minda Davy. She is going to be going through item number 4, which is open meeting law and rules of order.
You're able to see the presentation on this television here, correct? Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Minda Davy, and I'm a Deputy County Attorney. And I'm here to talk about a super fun subject, open meeting law. Truly, I love open meeting law, but it's probably going to bore you, so I will do my best to get through it, but it's very important. How many of you have served on the board of a public body? So a few of you have, and a couple of you have not. So I think it's good for a refresher, even for those that have served on a public body board before. But as a public body board, you're subject to open meeting law. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview about that. So we're on the right slide. Almost 60 years ago, the Arizona legislature enacted the open meeting law in order to maximize public access to the governmental process. I guess I'm just going to.
Yeah.
The statutes for open meeting law can be found beginning with Arizona Revised Statute 38431. The Arizona Attorney General also has an agency handbook on open meeting law that outlines the statutes along with Attorney General opinions and relevant case law, which can be found at the Attorney General website. Open meeting law applies to public bodies, and it not only provides for meetings to be conducted openly, it requires notices and agendas to contain the necessary information to inform the public in a timely manner. Open meeting law prevents public bodies from making decisions in secret, requiring transparency in decision making. In considering what a public body is within the statutory definition of public body, it includes a political subdivision of the state, which is further defined to include all counties, cities, towns, school districts, and special districts. The Redistricting Advisory Commission, which you all are serving on, falls within the definition of public body because it is a subcommittee of the Board of Supervisors, causing it to be subject to open meeting law. And we can actually skip that slide. Thank you. So let's break down the definition of meeting for open meeting law purpose. First, there's a gathering, face-to-face, or it can be technological. And second, there is a gathering of a quorum of the public body. And 3, it's a gathering of a quorum where those members of the public body discuss business of the public body. So you want to think gathering, quorum, and discussion. And what is a quorum of this board? Is this all the board members?
We have 13, so a quorum is 7.
7, okay. So think 7 for your quorum. All right. A meeting can include a few different things. An electronic communication is considered to be an email, a text, a chat, which is between a quorum of members that the public body is proposing legal action or discussing matters that are likely to come before the board for legal action. So if you're sending an email and you're replying all and you have a quorum, going back and forth discussing something that could come before your commission, that could constitute a meeting outside of a public meeting, which would be a violation of open meeting law. Also, if you have a meeting and you just call it a work session, it's still a meeting. Same thing for a social function. So if you all attend a similar social event, many of you might have been at the Greater Yuma Economic Development Corporation lunch yesterday. If you were all to sit at the same table, that could potentially be a meeting if you're discussing any business that could come of the commission. Public bodies governing documents define what a quorum is. We kind of just talked about what your quorum is, so we can go ahead and skip that. Arizona law requires meetings be open to the public, notice of the meeting and agenda be posted, and the meeting to be recorded or have minutes taken for the public body, and for the public body to refrain from taking legal action outside of a public meeting. I don't think this board will ever take legal action, is that correct? To make recommendations?
Advisory.
Okay, got it. All members of the public are permitted to attend a public meeting and must be able to listen to the meeting. They don't have to be able to participate in the meeting. Open meeting law provides that the public body may include a call to the public, but it is not required. While you cannot require a member of the public to sign in, you may require them to identify themselves if they speak. The chair, should this, I believe you will have the election of a chairman after this agenda item, may require removal of a disruptive member of the public and may also limit the time of the speaker. A call to the public should be used for the member of the public to raise any issue or comment on items, whether or not they're on the agenda. It should not be used for the commission to engage in dialogue with the speaker. However, a commission member may ask the staff to review the matter, place it on a future agenda, or respond to criticism. Notice of a public meeting must be posted at least 24 hours before the meeting, and that was all done internally, so that was already out there. It must also include the agenda or identify where the agenda can be found. And the agenda must include sufficient detail about the matters to come before the public body, and the public body is limited to discussing and taking legal action on only those matters listed on the agenda. Minutes of the meeting are required to identify the details of the meeting. Recent legislation also requires minutes to identify how each member of the public body voted when taking legal action. Minutes and recordings must be posted within 3 business days. Legal action, I think we could probably just scoot over that one. But before we get into discussing executive session, are there any questions on meetings and public bodies? Okay. So we'll talk about executive session. The exception to the requirement that all meetings must be open to the public are executive sessions. The possible executive session must be listed on the agenda and the notice. Executive session minutes or recording must be kept apart from regular session minutes. No action that will legally bind the public body may be taken in executive session. Only individuals necessary for the discussion may be present. And most importantly, what happens in executive session stays in executive session, much like Vegas. And there must be a vote of the public body to go into executive session, and it must not start until all members of the public have been removed. At the beginning of the executive session, the chairperson should provide a caution regarding the confidentiality of the executive session. Executive sessions should only be used in limited circumstances. If public disclosure of the public body's decision is not prohibited by any statutory provision and the public body's interests are not threatened, the public body may choose to conduct all the discussion in public. And once you are in an executive session, a vote to exit the executive session is not necessary. So a public body may only go into executive session to discuss topics under 9 specific instances. First, discussion or consideration of items related to an employee of the public body, which won't be applicable to this commission. Same thing, we can skip the notice. And second, an executive session may be held when the public body considers or discusses records or matters contained in records that are confidential by law. Third, for discussion or consultation with public body's attorney for legal advice. Fourth, discussion or consultation with the attorney of the public body to consider its position and instruct its attorneys regarding contracts that are being negotiated, pending or contemplated litigation, or settlement discussions to avoid or resolve litigation. Any final binding settlement requires action to be taken in a public meeting. Fifth, discussion or consultation with representatives of the public body to consider its position and instruct its representatives regarding negotiations with employee organizations. Six, discussion or consideration regarding negotiations by city or town. Not probably going to happen here. Seventh, discussion or consultation with designated representatives of the public body in order to consider its position regarding negotiations for the sale of property or lease of property. This one is new. Discussion or consideration of matters relating to school safety operations or school safety plans or programs. It was just enacted this last summer. Same thing with this next one. And again, probably not going to be applicable here, but regarding security plans. So we'll continue on. While legal action which binds the public body cannot be taken in executive session, it may take action to create a consensus in executive session to instruct attorneys or staff accordingly, but only under the 4th, 5th, and 7th subsections that we just discussed. If open meeting law is violated by a public body, we are able to use ratification under the statute for any invalid legal action. The Attorney General and the County Attorney's Office are authorized to investigate open meeting law violations and to enforce open meeting law. Further, the Attorney General may file suit against an individual member of the public body, so that's you individually, if you knowingly violate the open meeting law. And the court may even impose monetary penalties against that individual, and frequent violations may cost you up to $2,500. And in the event any penalty is assessed to an individual member of the public body itself, so Yuma County, cannot pay the public or the penalty for you. And you may even be financially responsible for attorney's fees and may be removed from your position. Are there any questions on executive session or penalties? Alicia?
Yes. So if there is a penalty for a violation, a monetary penalty, would that also cause a removal of the person from that public body, or like a commission?
The commission?
If they violated the statute?
If you knowingly violate open meeting law, so if you had an executive session and you had this training and you go out and you communicate exactly what was discussed and with somebody outside of the executive session, I think that you knowingly did that. If somebody filed a complaint and it was investigated, then yes, you individually could be assessed a penalty and removed from the commission. and potentially even assess attorney's fees as well. What's not covered by open meeting law? Items specific to the governance of the particular public body are not covered in open meeting law. So who serves on the public body, what a quorum is, voting requirements, how the meeting will be run. And then we have some examples of bad habits of a public body, which you should try to avoid to stay in compliance with open meeting law. So since the agenda needs to be posted at least 24 hours before the meeting, you don't want to add something within that 24 hours. And executive session followed by an open session with an action item that's vague, that just says direct staff to proceed as discussed. You want to have a little more detail in there. And next would be preventing access to the public by, holding a 2-hour meeting scheduled at 4 in a building where the outside doors lock at 5. And then, again, limiting public access to the meeting, having it in a room that doesn't have enough seats for anybody from the public. Thinking that by calling the meeting a work session, they were not having a meeting. Remember, if it's a gathering of a quorum of the public body to discuss items that could come before the public body, it's a meeting. And board members who talk to the person next to him or her instead of directing your statements on the microphone. You want to try to avoid any appearance of discussion amongst yourself that looks like you're limiting public access. Same thing with texting during a meeting, because if multiple people are texting at the same time, it could give the appearance that you're communicating with one another. And then commission members who text, which I just gave you that example. Next is, you want to have an orderly meeting for good record keeping. I think Christy would appreciate that. And next, having agenda items that don't give the public reasonable notice of what's going to be discussed. And then holding various meetings in groups, each group being less than a quorum, but where the sum of the groups is a quorum to discuss an issue that would come before the public body. Having the attorney pass comments back and forth between a quorum. You want to be careful of any action that could circumvent the open meeting law. And lastly, commenting back and forth on a social media post between a quorum of a public body, that may be construed as discussing public body business, and then beware of the reply all on an email. And that concludes the open meeting law presentation. And I think you have some other slides in there, but you can just disregard those conflict of interest slides. Does anybody have any questions?
So is the county going to keep us in compliance with all of the notice and agenda and posting requirements?
Christy?
Excellent. Bill is here. Okay.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you. And thank you all for serving on this commission, and have fun.
We're going to do election. Yeah, I'm going to go up.
Tiffany Anderson, Elections Director for Yuma County. We are now on item number 5, which is the election for the chair and vice chair for your commission. We will be accepting nominations. I believe the most orderly way to go about this is likely to vote on each of the nominations as they come up until there is a sufficient number of votes supporting that individual for chair. So and then we'll go with vice chair after that. So with that, do we have any nominations for the chair of the commission? Ms. Meister.
I'd like to nominate Fernie, if you would accept the nomination.
I gladly, I'll step down. I was going to nominate someone else, but I accept the nomination. Oh, well, that's hard. I don't want to be. I decline.
Ms. Tucker?
I'd like to nominate Russell McLeod to chair this. He has experience chairing public meetings, and I think we could learn and take advantage of his experience in that role.
You're amenable?
Sure.
Let's do a roll call
Yes.
vote, please.
Well,
But
we have other nominations.
Oh, okay.
We just let it, why don't we go ahead and accept all nominations?
Accept
and
all the
then we'll go
nominations,
through
then we
the
can vote.
process.
Okay, thank you, Fernie. We're gonna work through this together. So, other nominations?
I nominate Alicia Cerveño for president. I mean, for board chair. Sorry.
Alicia for president.
Board chair.
I accept.
You're amenable, okay, thank you. Are there any other nominations for chair of the Redistricting Advisory Commission? Okay. So are we going to take a vote by in order? Okay, so for Mr. McLeod,
I would just raise hands.
okay, please raise your hand for an aye to vote for Mr. McLeod as chair of the Redistricting Advisory Commission. So I note 5 individuals. For Ms. Zermano, I note 6 votes for Ms. Zermano. So with that,
Well, we don't, it has to be a majority, so.
Majority.
Somebody didn't
It's a
vote.
majority.
Okay, I'm
majority of the
sorry.
members
All right,
present.
I'm conferring with the attorney. Okay.
Majority
so
of the
just-
members present. So, okay, so with that, Ms. Zermano has been appointed as the chairperson of the Redistricting Advisory Commission. I will now accept nominations for the vice chair position, please.
I nominate Russell McLeod for vice chair.
Ms. Meister?
I'd like to nominate Fernie for vice chair.
I accept.
Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Okay, with that, we'll go through the votes. All in favor of Mr. McLeod as vice chair for the Redistricting Advisory Commission, please raise your hands. I count 4 votes. And for Mr. Quiros? 7 votes. Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, I am going to introduce our redistricting consultant, Dr. Doug Johnson, who is the president of the National Demographics Corporation. He is going to be giving the commission a redistricting process overview. Following that, we will be discussing future meeting dates.
So, thank you, and pleasure to be with you this afternoon. I guess we're still in the afternoon. As I mentioned, I'm Doug Johnson from National Demographics. I'm actually here, I'm part of a team, of course, working on this. Ivy Belarus-Sakansky from NDC is also working on this. She's actually on the road. I believe they're in Flagstaff with the State Redistricting Commission today, but she will be at some of these meetings. And then Bruce Adelson from Federal Compliance Consulting is an attorney, a Voting Rights Act specialist attorney that's part of our team as well. And we do like to say we've kind of brought together, we think, all the best pieces. Bruce used to be with the Department of Justice and reviewed state plans for Voting Rights Act compliance. And then Ivy used to be with Research Advisory Strategies. That was another firm that did this work that is no longer in business. So we brought her in to help our team out. So we brought together all the different pieces of the puzzle, hopefully to serve you as effectively as we can. So, and today we're happy to make our first presentation, kind of stick a toe in the water of this project. And I really violated the directions of not putting paper on the microphone. My apologies. So I'll just hold this. So the redistricting process you have on the screen in front of you, we do have time, which is a nice thing. Unlike most of the jurisdictions that are racing because of the census delay, because there's no 2022 board election, we have time to get this process done. So obviously it started with forming this commission and your swearing in earlier today. We'll get this initial information, get you going, get you kind of informed on what the process is, what lies ahead of you. And then we'll get the census data released August 16th. Now this was due March 31st. So we're way behind. The Bureau, as everyone's familiar with, the COVID and all these issues have put the Census Bureau way behind. So we're going to get the data August 16th in what the Census Bureau calls a legacy format. So it's not like the 17th we can give you any numbers. We're going to get this data in a very raw format and have to process it and get it sorted and into a format that we can put into the maps and get you the numbers. So we're probably looking at getting data on the current districts from the official census data probably in early September. That would then start off this initial draft mapping period where the public will be invited to submit maps. You know, that's the best part, is to hear from the folks that are here, living here, and the residents, and what they like and dislike and want to see in the maps as they change. And then all of you will start to weigh in on this process. And there's no rush, as I mentioned. This will be a iterative process of getting your feedback on the first batch of maps. Perhaps the public will listen and submit more maps. Obviously, we as your mappers will be taking your direction and coming back to you with more maps, and as you narrow that option down and eventually get to a final map. The process, as you know, will be the commission hopefully chooses a map and recommends that to the board. It may be that there's a minority report, or you know how commissions work. But whatever you decide on, you'll send to the board, and then they consider your recommendations, and the board will make the ultimate decision. And the deadline for that is July 1st. You may remember the last time we had an earlier deadline 10 years ago. The state did extend that deadline given that the census data is so late and the lack of a pending election to drive that process. So you hear about the cities going quickly, the state obviously going quickly. That's all because they have 2022 elections. You don't have to go nearly as quickly as they all do. So the next slide, the rules and goals. So the rules are set by the federal government, either by the statute or by the courts, and they're on the left-hand side. And they're pretty straightforward to describe, although very complex in implementation. So equal population. We have to have essentially an equal number of people in each district, and it is people. It's not registered voters, it's not citizens, it's not adults, it's human beings counted by the 2020 census. So we'll get those numbers. And there's a little bit of play, a couple %, yes, either side of that if you're trying to keep a city together or achieve some other goal. But it really is a fairly strict requirement. Then we have to comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act. This involves a very high-level description, really not diluting the vote or removing the opportunity to elect of any of what the law calls a protected class. Now, you often hear Voting Rights Act referred to as minority groups. Of course, the law actually doesn't say minority groups. The law says protected classes. And of course, it does apply even when the so-called minority is actually a majority population. So we'll be watching that very carefully and being sure to evaluate the map. All the maps that we present to you from your mapping team will comply with that. And then we'll be reviewing any maps that come in from the public and flagging any that raise a concern as well. So we do need to consider race and ethnicity when looking at compliance with the Voting Rights Act, but you can go too far. So the third requirement is no racial gerrymandering. So race can be considered, but cannot be the predominant factor. That's the golden word in the Supreme Court history, is when race becomes predominant, then we have an issue. You'll see in a minute that we can map out estimated ethnic data city block by city block. But if you start drawing lines based on those colors on the map, where that overrides all of the considerations, then race has become predominant and you've gone too far. So as a general rule, this isn't a legal rule, but as a general rule, what we say is focus on neighborhoods. And if a neighborhood is heavily constituted of one of the protected class populations, pay particular attention to not dividing that neighborhood. But as long as you're picking neighborhood by neighborhood, the neighborhood is a predominant factor, not the race. So those are your requirements. Those are what the laws say. And then you have the guiding principles that the board adopted, listed on the right-hand side here. They reaffirm the representation, one person, one vote, the equal population requirements. Then they want the lines to try to be compact to the degree possible and contiguous. Those are pretty straightforward ideas. Contiguous just means that parts of the districts touch each other. You don't have a piece in one part of the county and another piece not connected somewhere else. Compactness, there are lots of ways of measuring it. None of them are very good. Generally, it means try not to bypass one group of people to get to another group of people. But that can be offset by the voting rights requirements or by the other considerations. So preservation of political subdivisions, essentially cities, areas like that, they want to stay together in one district. You can try to keep together in one district. Preservation of communities of interest. Again, this is the neighborhoods. Trying to keep a neighborhood together. And it doesn't have to be, it can be actually wider than neighborhoods if it's, say, a redevelopment area or any kind of area that has a shared characteristic that you want to keep together for whatever reason. It doesn't have to be a residential neighborhood. Then preservation of the cores of prior districts. The idea of this one is that the residents of your current districts have been organizing for the last 10 years to get involved in elections. And so they know the parts of their district, they've worked with the other people in that district to try to support the candidates they've liked for the last 10 years. So within the other requirements and goals, you can say it's worth it to try to keep kind of an inertia value. It's worth it to try to keep together the people that have worked together as much as possible. Avoiding pairing of incumbents. I'm going to talk about this one together with the last one. So avoiding pairing of incumbents along with favoring or disfavoring an incumbent candidate or party is prohibited. So how does that work? Yeah. The avoiding pairing of incumbents just means we try to keep one incumbent in each district. I always describe this as let the voters decide which current board members have earned re-election. If you put two board members together, well, it doesn't matter what the voters think. One of them can't continue for another term. So how does that work with avoiding favoring or disfavoring an incumbent? Well, you can try to keep a board member in a separate seat without picking their friends. So the idea is make sure they're each in a separate seat, but don't necessarily say we're going to put this area in because we know these voters support Supervisor X. So that's the whole thing, is keep them in a separate seat, but don't necessarily try to put them in a seat with their friends or with people that you know support them. And similarly, we want to avoid looking at challengers. You don't want to try to draw a district so that it would help someone who you want to have on the board, and you don't want to be trying to help one party versus the other. So it's a little, when you read it, it can be a little weird about how does the avoid pairing work with the avoid favoring, but hopefully that description works. Essentially the goal is don't politically gerrymander to help somebody, but let the voters decide which of your board members have earned re-election by keeping them each in separate seats. The next slide, we have a demographic summary. As you see in bold print in the top left, these are estimates. The total population numbers, as I mentioned, have not come out yet. So what we've done is been looking at some other census data to try to project where your numbers are. As you may have heard, we had a big surprise in Arizona, not getting a 10th congressional district. So the 2020 census for the state as a whole came out short. It actually came out short of the Census Bureau's own 2019 estimates of the state population. So we know the numbers are short of where we expected them to be, both at the state, that's official now, and we know that that will then mean they're short at the local level too. So these numbers are obviously lower than expected. And the one thing I always say about every estimate, as the Census Bureau's 2019 numbers proved, the only thing I can guarantee about every estimate is that it will be wrong. So these are useful to give you a sense of where things have happened, but the exact numbers are obviously not going to be the right numbers. The big thing that we concentrated on is District 4. You can see the estimated deviation, that's how much it varies from the target population. It's over by, we think, about 3,800. So it has grown more than the other districts have. One thing to note, that the districts where there are negative numbers for the estimated deviation, that doesn't mean they've shrunk. It just means they didn't grow as fast as District 4. So that's a failure to keep up with the average growth rate. So we're really looking at District 4, we expect to be overpopulated, which means it will have to geographically shrink. We'll have to give up people to the other districts. And then District 3 is at 1.4%. That's right about at the target population. So there could be a scenario where District 3 doesn't change. It's likely that it will change as all the shifts come around from the neighboring districts. But it's possible that if this estimate holds up, that District 3 could stay as changed. And then 1, 2, and 5 are all short of population, meaning each of them will geographically have to grow, pick up more territory in order to add people to get up to the population that they need for a district. The numbers below that, I won't spend a ton of time at this point. We'll go through these in a lot of detail as you go through the process. These demographic numbers actually are the official data. So the trick is the 2020 census is only the total population count. All this other data on citizen voting age population, language spoken at home, household income level, that all comes from this separate American Community Survey, which is run by the Census Bureau. It's still census data, but it's updated every year. And it was not delayed by COVID. So the numbers you're looking at for estimated percentage of the citizen voting age population, and these percentages are all the official data. So, no surprise. Districts 1 and 4, fairly overwhelmingly Latino, at about 3/4 Latino of the citizen voting age population. District 5 is about 57%, and then 2 and 3 are short of 50% at 43% and 24%. And we talk about citizen voting age population a lot because that's what we use for Voting Rights Act compliance. The courts focus on that number as your eligible voter population. Yeah. It's the closest number we have to who could register and vote if they chose to. So that's a big number for that. The other data on age, immigration, language spoken at home, those are all factors that can go into community of interest. So a neighborhood or a community may define itself as, say, an area that speaks Spanish at home, or an area of different education levels than the areas around it. These are all factors that people can use to determine their communities of interest. There's no requirement to do that. So we give you a lot of data through this process, and then you can choose to look at and focus on as much as you want. And of course, we can map all this data. So this will start to go a little faster here as we're just looking at maps. So you can see the overlay of the current districts. And all of this data will end up online. So there'll be a website where you can call up each of these maps just by clicking on a different box for the different demographics. So you can see we call this a heat map. The purples and blues are 25 to 35%. The lighter blues are 35 to 50%. So purples and blues are where Latinos are less than half of the citizen voting age population. And then you get the greens, yellows, and reds, where Latinos are a majority of the citizen voting age population. So you can see how that factors in and kind of see how the current lines reflect those communities. Go to the next slide. And of course, we can do this with all of the demographic data. So here you can see percentages of renters. And when we give you the online map too, you can zoom in and out. So it's a little hard to see details in the more densely populated areas. But renters, percentage of households on the next slide with household income over 75,000. Of course, the flip side would be under 75,000. And the last one, the percentage speaking Spanish at home. So all of these maps, again, can help define what are communities of interest that you want to focus on, try to keep together. I should add, as you're looking at these maps, and you can see in some cases it looks like the lines go through like the areas that are heavily Latino or that speak Spanish at home. Keep in mind that the Voting Rights Act rule is that you cannot divide a neighborhood or a protected class in a way that dilutes their voting strength. But you can divide their area in a way that gives them the ability to elect in both seats. So if it's possible that Latinos could be 90% of one seat or 55% of two seats, yeah, I'm just picking numbers, but there's no need to put all of them in one seat when they can win both seats. So sometimes communities, protected class communities, do get divided, but only if that gives them the opportunity to win in both seats. So that helps look at these maps and understand them. And then the last slide, one of the things that we do kind of really consider kind of our trademark is openness, transparency, and engaging the public in this process. And the big thing, if you've been following the State Commission, we've been talking about this a lot more and more lately, is the tools now are much better than they ever were before. We're in a new era of online tools and online access, thankfully. So all our data and maps are available to the public. We'll be putting out some tools ranging from just a simple paintbrush tool to online map with a paintbrush and eraser. That's really all the options you have to use it. And then all of this data and powerful tools to let people participate and draw the maps once we have the data. Obviously, without the data, there's not a lot of mapping to be done. So we do encourage people to map and submit their neighborhoods, communities of interest, and full plans. And we'll add too, of course, anytime we're going to put an online tool out, we're going to put a paper map out. So if people don't have internet access, they don't have computers, or they just don't like using computers and websites, they will have the opportunity to use a paper map to sketch out the lines they want, or to just sketch out the neighborhood. And I always say the thing to emphasize, because it can be a little intimidating with all the tools we put out, is they're all empowering tools. There's no requirement that someone use our tool. If someone wants to grab a map from the gas station and scribble their neighborhood or scribble their proposed district on it, we'll take that, we'll put it in the computers, and when it goes public, it'll look just like all the other maps that have been proposed by residents and be considered by you and ultimately by the board. So that's a quick spin through the data and the rules of redistricting. You want to take questions now? Or? So, yeah, if you have questions now, happy to discuss them. Obviously, there will be many meetings to follow and many in-depth discussions of all these factors. And if you are following the State Commission, a lot of the same issues that you'll face of communities of interest and the Voting Rights Act will be debated on a much faster timeline, as they are shooting to finish in December. I don't know if they will or not, but that's their target date. And obviously, as I'm sure you all probably know, the current district line goes right through the county. And so as that line changes, odds are it will stay going through the county. But obviously, it makes life much easier for elections and for administering elections and drawing those precincts if we can follow your board map ends up following wherever that line ends up following. So it's nice that they'll get done well before our deadline. So any questions?
Mr. McCloud.
Mr. McCloud.
Thank you. I have several. Number one, are these going to be televised and also recorded for Channel 77 and online review?
Yes, they
These
are.
meetings?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And then will the board members have availability to have these interactive maps in front of us when we're discussing these? Say any one of the commissioners wants to suggest a certain boundary change, take in a subdivision, remove a subdivision. Is that going to be available to us individually as we move forward?
Certainly, as you sit at home and think about these things, you'll have access to all the tools and maps that the public will, including all the draft maps. The map we put them up on is really as easy to use as Google Maps. So if you can use Google Maps, this is essentially Google Map with a checkbox. I want to see map 1, I want to see map 2. So yes, you'll certainly have access to all that. In terms of in the meetings, if you want to bring your laptop, you'll be able to access to it. And of course, we can hook our laptops up. And when we're actually discussing maps, we'll have our computer live with the mapping software and be able to show it on the screen as you ask questions.
Okay, thank you. Oh, one more thing. If we have these in the future, I would ask if they're colored maps, that we have them in color. I can't distinguish between grays that well. So, thank you.
Luckily that none of those matter because you haven't received the updated numbers yet.
Oh, yeah,
so-
I'm not complaining about today's, but just in the future.
Question on behalf of the commission is, how will you do the outreach, and then what role can they play in the outreach of encouraging people to do these maps? Where do they go to get the maps? What are the processes to get the word out so we can really truly engage the public?
Exactly. So it's a good question, and actually it plays precisely into your earlier presentation as well. So obviously the information will be coming out from the county. We'll be doing outreach to local groups. And then you can pick up all that information that the county's putting out and spread that out to your own networks. That's part of the reason you're here, is to help get the word out to the community. What we encourage you to do is say, here's information from the commission. You can share, kind of like you did when you first introduced yourselves, why you think this process is important and why people should join in this process. And then tell them how to share their thoughts. So, I'm part of this important commission. Here's the draft maps or whatever just happened. Please share your thoughts on this website or come to this meeting. Where you can get in trouble is if people start sharing substantive thoughts with you and you start coming back here and saying, I heard from so-and-so that they thought this. You might convey that information perfectly, which is great. Or what often, we see it all the time, so-and-so comes back and says, Joe said that I said that, and I didn't say it. So it's much better to encourage people to come and share their thoughts directly through the county, or to come to the hearing themselves and share their thoughts directly in the official form, rather than you trying to gather substantive input. But take every opportunity you possibly can to share the word, let people know this is going on, send them the updates as we go through the process with what's happening and how they can share their thoughts directly to the whole commission.
Well, with your response and the information we received early concerning the open meeting laws, would it be appropriate for I as an individually to post something on my Facebook page? And I generally block it so that nobody can comment, because that's what I like to do, but would that be appropriate? As long as I don't share that information with any of the other commissioners?
Typically, yes, and then I'll have legal follow-up. But typically, yes, but as you noted, if anyone comments substantively,
right,
it's okay if they comment substantively, but don't respond. I guess that.
Yeah, just recall the definition of the meeting. So again, the group, quorum, and discussion. So
this is the new world of,
Yes.
if one of you follows one of the other one of you, and one of you comments on your Facebook page substantively, then the other one sees it on their page, you're starting to count towards that serial quorum kind of thing. So.
And I'm going to interject here. We do have a county website set up already specifically for the redistricting effort. As we move along, it will become much more robust with meeting agendas, minutes, recordings of the meetings, as well as draft maps, meeting schedule. And so we will continue to update as more information is available. This commission here will be responsible for setting the meeting dates and times, and then working with the county on finding locations for all of those public meetings that are required as a part of the resolution adopted by the Board of Supervisors, which is at least one meeting in each supervisorial district, up to 8 meetings total, I believe. So we will work through that as a group to schedule them when appropriate.
And the nice safe harbor for you to consider, if you want to just be purely safe, is on your social media, just share everything that comes from the county. If all you're doing is posting and reposting stuff that comes from the county, you're safe.
Dr. Jackson, on your on the IRC website, there is the survey where we can draw our maps. Is that going to be similar to what we're going to get on the county site?
It won't be that same tool. That's a $120,000 system or something like that. But you will have that same capability, definitely. So the paintbrush tool I talked about is usually, what we'll likely use is a system called District R, which comes out of Tufts University, or District R, I guess they call it. And it's literally, you zoom in on your neighborhood and you use a little paintbrush to highlight the census blocks that are in your neighborhood. And then type in, what it gathers is very similar, and then you type in a description of your neighborhood. So it won't be that same tool, but it'll be very similar.
Thank you. You mentioned coming back in a meeting and saying, Mr. Smith told me that this looks better. But I would assume if Mr. Smith can convince me that his idea is better than what we've looked at so far, any individual commissioner can come back and Doesn't have to say Mr. Smith, but can come back and say, I think this is a better way to draw this district. I would assume, correct? You're not using that person's name, drawing them in.
Okay, you're here to exercise your judgment.
Yeah, okay.
and
Just wanted to
offer
make
your
sure that
thoughts
was
as
clear,
well.
that we can come back as individual commission members with our idea of doing something better.
Yeah, I think I'm safe in saying that. That's the reason
We
you're
think
all
that's why
named
we're
here
here.
is to-
The
was
intent
to
of the
exercise your
commission
judgment.
is for your feedback to select a map to propose to the Board of Supervisors for adoption. The entire intent.
Yeah, where you get in trouble is trying to relay someone else's thoughts. We definitely hope you will all share your thoughts. So.
Timeline that we're looking at completing this map and providing it to the supervisor's approval.
I'll step in here. As of right now, the time frame is somewhat fluid. What we've discussed with the consultants so far is that we would like to see this effort wrap up ideally by the spring. So we're looking at a September timeframe for release of county-specific data. The consultants would come back and share that specific data with this commission. From there, we are looking at doing a public outreach meeting, likely virtual, so that it's more accessible for the entire county of what the redistricting process is, how you can be involved, and what that looks like. They'll start drafting maps. Once this commission is considering those maps, they will be published publicly. They'll be posted on the website. And that's when we're gonna start getting the feedback from the public, where they're drawing their own maps, or they're sending in comments, or they're attending meetings here with this commission to tell you their feedback in person. That should be done likely with our regular monthly meetings of this commission. And then likely I think probably after the holidays, we'll be doing the public meetings out in the districts to have that interface with the public within their own district of their individual feedback. So we'll bring that all together. Hopefully it culminates in a decision that we can bring to the board sometime in the spring.
Very aggressive.
This is a much more relaxed timeline than the December deadlines are going to be. Relax, and when I say relax, I mean contemplative. You can do more thinking. Not speed.
You mean the spring of, if I may?
Yes, sir.
So you mean the spring of 2022, right? You anticipate being wrapped up
Preferably.
April, roughly?
Yes.
Probably not later than May.
Correct.
And how many meetings, if I may? How many meetings in each supervisor district? Is there one or two, or?
There's a requirement that at least one occur in each supervisorial district. And then one of those public hearings will be at a regular Board of Supervisors meeting as well. So what was outlined in the resolution, as I believe, and the contract is up to a total of 8 public meetings that can be conducted by our consultants.
Public meetings including
Like
these type
public-
of meetings, or out in the districts?
Community, correct.
Thank you.
I believe that is in the resolution of, is it 2020-104? All of that information is in this resolution.
Thank you.
And that resolution is in the meeting packets before you today, as well as the guiding policies and principles for the redistricting effort. It is important. We will be calling back to those frequently to ensure that we're staying on track and within the guidance adopted by the Board of Supervisors. If there aren't any other questions, thank you so much.
Thank you very
Dr.
much.
Johnson.
Look forward to spending some quality time with you over the next few months. Thank you.
Quick comment, I do remember you from the first time, 10 years ago.
Yep.
We haven't changed.
Head less gray, but otherwise, yes.
For the meeting at this point?
Um,
Or would you like me to finish the meeting and then we can?
I will go ahead and have you finish the meeting, please.
Okay, absolutely. Number 7 is call to the public. As we don't have any public present today, I'm going to move to our discussion of dates, times, and locations of future meetings. I have the meeting calendar for this room. This is where we intend to have all of the commission meetings held. I have it available. I would like to ask that this commission consider that our next meeting be scheduled for Tuesday, September 14th. This is a date that works for both the consultants to go through the legacy data to have final census information specific to Yuma County. And this room is available on that date already. It also works with schedules of staff support. So if Tuesday, September 14th, and we can discuss the time. At least for the next meeting, I would like that to be considered, please.
That's $1,600, you said?
The
4 o'clock?
time is flexible.
Any discussion, does that work for everyone?
I think 4 o'clock would work.
Does 4 o'clock work well, or is there something during the workday, so maybe over the lunch period, where more of the public could potentially come participate? Is that in conflict with existing work schedules?
How long do you foresee the meeting lasting if you want to do it during the?
I believe we should schedule them for at least 2 hours. Some of them will be like today's and will be wrapped up within an hour. The others, where we may be considering maps that have a lot of public input, they could last longer, potentially 2 to 3 hours, but that depends on how many people show up to issue comments. Yes.
Considering the nature of this commission and looking to have public input, I think that it would behoove us to have availability for the public, like during a lunch hour. Ideally, 4 o'clock, I think that's a little too early for people that don't get off until 5. So either it would do it at the lunch hour or perhaps at 5:30, so that the public, a lot of the people who work from 8 to 5 would also be able to attend. But any comments?
Yeah, I agree. I was going to suggest maybe 5 after I thought about it. I don't think the lunch hour would work well. Most people, when you consider travel time, they're not going to have time.
Yes.
And so I think 5 o'clock is good. Most people can get away a few minutes early if they wish, or even so, there's
5:30.
plenty of time if we have a call to the public somewhere in the middle that we don't hold it immediately. In fact, the Board of Supervisors has a policy. They leave call to the public open the entire time, and I think we could probably, if the chairman would agree, we could do the same thing. So people arriving late that wanted to comment would have that ability. But I think you're correct. I think a 5 p.m. start is probably better.
I agree.
Any other comments on that? You agree?
I agree. Straight up 5 o'clock.
Do you have any comments on that, 5 o'clock?
Yeah, I said
Ms.
5.
Gill?
No, that's fine with me. Although probably a little bit after would be nice. That way people, if they're on the other side of town, they could get here, in time. So let's say like 5:30.
5:30? You have any
I believe
comments?
that 5:30 is too late.
Me too.
If they run 2 hours, it's going
Yeah.
to be too late. What Russell McLeod said, if we put the call to public either in the middle or towards the end, or just have it totally open, there should be more than enough time. I mean, we're giving people enough time. We're making it into our schedule. Those who really want to be at these meetings are going to make it a point to make them come.
Yes.
Even if they're 15, 20 minutes late, they're still going to be able to tell the public. I believe 5 o'clock would work for most.
I agree.
Okay, so at that, can we, I don't know if you want to make a motion of any sort, but if we could at least come to an agreement that the next meeting, yes, Ms. Gill?
If the meeting starts, is the public still allowed to come in?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, for the duration of
Yes.
the meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
It is a public meeting, even though they won't be here from the very beginning.
Mr. Hernandez?
Madam Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we do conduct our next meeting at 5 o'clock.
Very well.
I'll second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and for clarification, we're in agreement that that next meeting date will be Tuesday, September 14th at 5:00 p.m.
Correct.
Okay. Would you like to discuss a regular meeting schedule at this point? The second Tuesday of each month, this room is available. So if that works for this commission, we can absolutely establish a regular meeting schedule today to be adjusted as necessary. Perhaps when we're reviewing maps or we're getting closer to the end, we may need to establish a few extra meetings to get the business handled for the commission. Second Tuesday of each month?
I would,
Go ahead.
I am not able, second Tuesday of each month, that's our governing board meetings every second Tuesday of
Okay,
each month.
thank you for that.
And I'm not available either because I teach on Tuesdays. So that,
So the 14th will not work.
well, I'll be here for that meeting.
Okay. I also identified the first Monday or first Tuesday of each month as being available regularly in this room.
First Mondays work. First Tuesdays or third Tuesday of the month don't work.
So Tuesdays are bad, it sounds like.
What about Wednesdays?
Wednesdays are not good in this room. It's booked for the entire day.
Mondays are good for me.
Mondays are good for me.
Mondays are good? Okay. How does the first...
Nancy?
Anything the second half of each month rather than the first half of the month. I travel with my job. Is there any opportunity to meet the last week of the months?
So you're saying the first half of the month does not work well for your job? Okay. Let me look at
The last week of every month, I'm usually in town, the entire week.
But still considering a Monday of the last of the month, correct?
Monday's
How long is
fine.
my
Anything the last week of the month, I'm usually in town.
How does the fourth Monday of the month look? It'll get a little tricky when we get into the holidays, which is where I was trying to avoid the end of the month. So I know that gets complicated.
The fourth Monday of the month.
So we're looking October 25th Monday, is that correct?
The next meeting would then be September 27th.
Thank you.
My birthday.
Yes.
I thought we already set the September.
Oh, we are going to do the 14th. My apologies.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we
Okay.
agreed with
So yes.
time and voted on
I would
that.
not be able to attend on the September 14th, but that's fine. But we'll continue with the second on
Okay.
October.
And the materials, I will be sending out the meeting materials prior to the meeting. As soon as they're finalized, they'll be sent out to the group. At that point, at least a week in advance, I'll be reaching out to ensure that we have a quorum. So it's really important that I have your accurate email address and phone numbers so that I'm able to get a hold of you to confirm attendance before we publicly post the meeting agenda.
If I may, if there's a consensus that the last Monday of every month works.
Not the last, fourth.
The fourth.
The fourth,
The
yeah.
fourth Monday.
Let me correct
Mr.
that.
McLeod, is that, you had your hand up, is that amenable?
Yes, I just wanted to comment that, we have an aggressive schedule here. Will we meet also, I would recommend that we would meet the fourth Monday of September as well. Instead of
but we
waiting,
have a-
6
that's a-
weeks before we have another meeting.
That's a special circumstance because of the data availability.
Yeah, there won't be a lot that happens to report to you or get your feedback on between the 14th and the 26th. So,
Are we
Mr.
good with
Johnson,
going
by
6 weeks then until this next meeting?
By October 25th, do you anticipate that we would have draft maps to review? That would be approximately 6 weeks after the commission meeting in September.
yes, we can certainly give an update on, what, the tools will be live, we can give you an update on what people have submitted so far.
Okay, I'm trying to understand the dialogue here. So are you suggesting to change the September 14th meeting, leave it as it is?
Yes.
Okay, and then the following meeting would be in October?
Monday, October 25th at 5:00 p.m.
Okay.
5 o'clock. And subsequent fourth Mondays from that point.
Okay, I'll have to miss that one.
I'm gonna go to September.
So be it. I won't make that meeting.
Mr. Hernandez, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm writing my notes down. So the September meeting is going to be at 5 o'clock, not 4 o'clock, correct?
Correct. At 5 p.m., September 14th.
And after that, the fourth Monday of every month
At 5.
at 5.
And then another question regarding meeting attendance. Do we have the capability for any commissioner to attend via Zoom in the event that they're not able to, they're out of town or something and we have a meeting scheduled? Is that?
Unfortunately, this room is not fully capable for virtual meetings. The individual can call in and will be able to hear what is happening within the room, but I would have to explore the capability of back and forth with that individual with the IT staff that handles this room.
For the, if you know you're going to be absent and you do want to attend, that we would have that option to attend.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That brings me to another point I wanted to discuss. Staff did a great job of arranging this, but we're short 2 commissioners. And if we all show up, there's not enough room. I'd like to suggest that we entertain the idea of discussing with the city of Yuma to use their chambers, which would accommodate all 13, and I'm pretty sure would accommodate electronic attendance. That way all 13 can fit on a dais, and we can also have electronic attendance. So to me, it's a superior location.
That's going to complicate a lot of things because we have no control over the city's calendar. And so we would be, every month, we would be at their mercy potentially, and we wouldn't have control over our channel, putting it out on our channel and on our website. So it's set up for the city. It would just complicate things. We can't make that decision tonight.
No,
if you
of
want us
course
to
not.
do investigation of that, we can, but another way to do that is really have an open square where you're able to talk to each other, and you also have an audience that can sit in. That way you can see one another and talk amongst yourselves. That's another way of having it in this room.
We also considered potentially having 2 commissioners at this staff table here. In future meetings, we can certainly accommodate another chair here. Ms. Thorpe will likely not be regularly attending these meetings. I'll be the representative handling the meetings. So we'll have our recording clerk, county attorney. Oh, and Mr. Kirk has said that he's willing to sit in the audience and advise as necessary. So that was another solution if we have all 13 members to have 2 with microphones at the staff table here.
Good, okay.
Idea.
Okay, so to conclude, I do have our next meeting set for September 14th at 5 p.m. The regular meetings will start, the regular meeting schedule will start in October as the 4th Monday of each month at 5 p.m. I will send out this information via email so that you all have it for your records as well. Ms. Isbell is recording it in the minutes, so it will be captured. At the meeting in September, we'll likely discuss public outreach as well as the Yuma County numbers. If there are other items that come up before, and then we can certainly include that in the agenda for the next meeting.
If I may, Tiffany, to clarify, a commission member wishing to phone in, it's listen only? They're not able to comment?
I need to clarify that point with the individuals who handle the IT here. My understanding of a brief conversation of that was that they may not be able to completely interact in the conversation if they're on the phone.
Okay, would you find that out and let us know for the next meeting? Thank you.
With that, Chairwoman Zermaina, would you like to adjourn the meeting?
Yes, I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Nice.